Now, Trina will be here to tell you what you can do about judgment. Stay with us.
It's morning to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. It's morning to Halloween, Silver Shamrock. It's morning to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. It's morning to Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Yes, kids, you too can own one of the big Halloween 3. That's right, 3 horrific masks to choose from. They're fun, they're frightening, and they glow in the dark.
They're fun, they're frightening, and they glow in the dark. I want one of those masks. I've always wanted one of those masks. And I am Will, and this is Sci-Fi Guy, but now I guess it's a horror guy, horror of it all, because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Now, of course, everyone who knows the film knows that there is no cackling witch, but there is certainly a witch mask, and there is a skull mask, and there is a pumpkin mask. 3 silver shamrock masks, and that was the wonderful TV commercial that plays throughout Halloween 3 that my buddy back in the old days, grammar school days, we used to hang out and watch this, and good old Robert used to hound me with singing it at the top of his lungs. Silver shamrock. So, why do I love Halloween 3 so much? Well, let's get right down to it. Let's get right down to the big-assed elephant gorilla, or in this case, maybe the big-ass zombie in the room. Halloween 3, H3, not H2O, H3 is not loved by many Halloween fans. Why? Because, of course, it doesn't have Michael Myers. It doesn't have the shape. The Boogeyman, the Boogerman, right? It doesn't have the Boogeyman. And I can understand why that's a problem for some. I can even understand why it might make people, dislike or not understand the film at first. But taking it for what it is, watching it on its own merit, that's what you have to do. And that's like any film, but of course, this was a sequel, one of the entries in the Halloween franchise, and a lot of people were not having it. They were not happy. Now, of course, everyone, I don't know about everyone, but certainly every Halloween fan is looking forward to the next and the last. They promise us, right? They are promising us it's the last. We'll see. Halloween Ends, which is coming out next month, just in time for Halloween. So, yes, just in time for Halloween. And of course, we're all, curious. We are all very curious, and I am as well. Claiming, of course, and vowing the promise that it will be the last one, the ends, Halloween Ends. We've heard that one before, of course. And let me really be clear and emphatic here. I love the Halloween movies. Well, I love 1 and 2, the classics, the John Carpenter first one, of course, and then the second one, which he wrote with Deborah Hill, but didn't, he didn't direct. And then the third, of course, where they departed, and he wrote that as well with Deborah Hill, and they didn't, he didn't direct. But I'm sorry, I'm looking at the. Well, that's interesting. Halloween 3. It was directed and written by Tommy Lee Wallace. Okay, so it was produced by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter. But the bottom line is that, of course, it was the most disappointing performing. It says on a budget of $2.5 million, Halloween 3 made a profit by grossing $14.4 million at the box office, but it was also the poorest performing film in the Halloween series at the time. Most critics gave the film negative reviews. Despite the reception, reevaluation in later years has given Halloween 3 new legions of fans and has established its own reputation as a standalone cult film. And great point, because I've always loved it, knowing, of course, its sort of, flaws, or rather its, deficits because it doesn't have Michael Myers, but in its own right, in its own way, and that's how you should, evaluate and judge any film, it is really good. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is a 1982 American sci-fi horror film. And that's a really, important notation there. It's a science fiction film more than anything else, and horror. Whereas Halloween, classic Halloween with Carpenter and Hill, the first one into the other installments, this is like horror or fantasy, supernatural. He keeps coming back. He really is the Boogeyman. He is the Boogeyman, right? So, but Halloween 3, as we know, if you're a fan, this is science fiction. This is sci-fi horror. So further on, it says it departs from the slasher genre, which the rest of the installments were a part of, and instead features a witchcraft theme with sci-fi aspects. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill believed that the Halloween series could have been an anthology series of films that centered around Halloween night, with each sequel containing its own characters, setting, and storyline. Director Tommy Lee Wallace stated that there were many ideas for Halloween-themed films, some of which could have potentially created any number of their own sequels, and that Season of the Witch was meant to be the first. So there you have it. I mean, this was a kind of great experiment that kind of failed in terms of profit and money. Box office, it was the least successful in terms of box office, but in terms of fan and love now and kind of a cult film, it's become, very respected. This is interesting. The German speed metal group Helloween, which used Halloween-themed imagery, adapted the Silver Shamrock ditty from the film, using it as an introduction in their 1985 debut full-length studio album Walls of Jericho. So, in terms of other pop culture goodness. Oh, as part of a merchandising campaign, the producers requested that Don Post mass-produce the Skull, Witch, and Jack-o'-lantern masks. Producers had given exclusive merchandising rights to Post as part of his contract for working on the film, and Post Studios had already successfully marketed tie-in masks for Universal Monsters Planet of the Apes, Star Wars, and E.T. Post used the original molds for the masks in the film to mass-produce masks for retail sale. He speculated because the masks were so significant in the movie, they could become a cult item with fans wanting to wear them when they go to see the movie. Post also gave mask-making demonstrations for a Universal Studio tour in Hollywood. The masks retailed for $25 when they finally appeared in stores. And in 2019, the company NECA, N-E-C-A, NECA announced that they would be releasing 3 8-inch action figures of the Pumpkin, Witch, and Skull, which were released in March of 2020. And so, because I never like to spoil, this is very much my rule. I know this movie is incredibly old. It's sort of a classic now, of course. You're talking about what? You're talking about 50 years or so. Yeah, it's definitely the 50-year mark. And actually, it's the anniversary because it's 1982 it came out. So 50th anniversary of good old Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And, I won't spoil it, again, because a lot of people out there might not have seen it. Bottom line, though, is that you're dealing with sci-fi, but you're also dealing, especially today with the technology today, with things that you could really do with this movie. And it's really chilling to think about, but when you see it, well, it has to do with masks and something in the masks with tech. And I don't want to say any more because, you'll see. But the bottom line is that this can kind of happen now. It really could happen. And, so that science fiction aspect has become science pretty much. And that's the chilling part. And also the idea of masks being used by some, heinous guy. And the villain is played by the great actor Dan O'Herlihy. And you know him also as the old man from RoboCop. Always screaming in the like CEO of Omni Consumer Products. So he's excellent in it. And he pretty much makes one of the better villains. His character's name is Connell Cochran. And he's from the old country Ireland, real sort of, native and born there. And again, it's like, you've got to see it and how he hatches his plans and what his ultimate plans are for the masks and such. Tom Atkins is great. He's in it as well. Another John Carpenter alumni there from The Fog, one of my other favorites. So you've got some great actors, and then Stacy Nelkin plays another a lead. So those are the three leads, and again, there's something very real and that now could be real about these masks and the tech. And again, I don't want to give it away. I mean, I'm a stickler for that, but that's what you have to keep in mind. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's aged so well, because the sort of tech or the plot and the horror aspects are very much real, and they could happen. So, and the old idea, like when we were kids, oh, don't go to certain houses, be careful of the candy, there'll be razor blades and poison, and that whole sort of kids are targets on Halloween is very much the core and heart of this movie, the bloody heart. Because whereas Michael Myers in all the movies, really, he never kills kids. He kills, well, in the beginning, of course, with the sister, but he's killing the babysitters. So he's killing the babysitters of the kids, getting out his weird twisted sister, I guess, fascination, obsession, whatever. Though then again, he's a boogeyman too, so you can get into is there real psychology when it's a boogeyman? But but again, Halloween 3 is so plausible now in so many ways, and I think that is why it's dated so well. So that's it. I mean, like everything in life, really, you just got to go experience it for yourself. Go watch Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, if you have not. And I would think you probably have, but who knows? So again, no spoilers. It's really good. It's just this real exploration of Halloween as a holiday and as horror, whereas Michael Myers and these other films are, killing, and it just. But Halloween 3 is about truly Halloween, and that the spookiness, the mythology, and the fascination with children, and how that can be turned on its head, and really sort of flipped and done in badly, so to speak. I want to thank you guys for listening. As always, you can subscribe if you have not. The freebies, the free or the paid people for $4.99, either or. We love you. We love to hear from you. We love to have you back. Subscribe, you'll get more, all the updates. And go watch Halloween 3. It will scare you. See you soon.